to sing, as we begin our time together, we're going to sing, We've Got the Whole World in Our Hands. And as we're singing, I want you to think and be ready to call out some things that we're holding and celebrating this morning. So I'll call out dogs and cats and other things, right? But be ready when I prompt you. So would you please rise in body or spirit as we sing together this morning? We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our whole world. We've got the whole world in our hands. 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 Now let's sing, We've got the dogs and the cats. Ready? And we've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. And you might be able to see we have some guests in the choir loft this morning. So let's sing, we have the roosters and the hens. Ready? And we've got the roosters and the hens in our hands. We've got the roosters and the hens in our hands. We've got the roosters and the hens in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. Now, anything that you've thought of so far that might fit? The lions and the bears. Let's sing Lions and the Bears. Ready? And we've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. Anything else? Coyotes and wolves. Coyotes and wolves. Let's sing together. Ready? And we've got the coyotes and the wolves in our hands. We've got the coyotes and the wolves in our hands. We've got the coyotes and the wolves in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. Ferrets and weasels. Ferrets and weasels. Let's sing together. Ready? And we've got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. Let's try one more. Any other ones? Elephants. We've got the elephants. Let's sing it. Ready? And we've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We are delighted that you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us, whether in person, on live stream, or watching on demand. My name is Stella Anderson, and I'm honored to serve this congregation as the Director of Spiritual Growth and Development. I'm joined on the chancel this morning by the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, our Senior Minister, Carter Smith, our Acting Director of Music Ministries, Allison Halerz, our Pianist-in-Residence, and Mike Halerz, our Technology Consultant. Our community has been standing up against injustice and siding with love for over 150 years. I never cease to be amazed by our commitment to good works and spiritual exploration, even as we grapple with new and unexpected challenges. This might be your first time with us, and if so, you've picked an interesting morning. Or perhaps you've been coming here for years. I hope that your experience this morning fills you with joy, energy, and purpose. After every service, we host a newcomer welcome in the Jackson Chapel, which is just out these double doors on the right-hand side past the social hall. It's a wonderful chance to meet other congregants and staff, ask questions, and make connections. I also invite you to fill out the newcomer survey on our website so we can get to know you better and connect you with other UUs in our community. You can find the survey at uuaa.org/newcomer survey. In case it isn't obvious by the non-human guests in the sanctuary, today is our annual Animal Blessing service. What a joy to see all of you here to honor your beloved companions. I didn't actually have the experience of growing up with pets. Our household was a little too chaotic to add a dog to the mix, and my dad and brothers are allergic to cats. So we had to settle for a tropical fish tank, which, while cool to look at, didn't exactly inspire a lot of affection for the noble fish. I got my first real pet after I graduated from college and moved to New York, a fluffy little gray tabby cat I called Calvin. He was with me for 16 years. He was my little grandpa cat, as I affectionately called him near the end of his life. I loved him. He merely tolerated me. And then my first dog, Sasha, a very fast, very neurotic border collie mix. Well, that was when I really got it, that bond, that unconditional love. If only we could see ourselves the way our animals see us, I think we'd all have much better self-esteem and much less imposter syndrome. Earlier in the summer, I was walking my current dog, Sunny, who's right down there, and I stumbled upon a really sad scene. A beautiful male mallard duck snuggled near the curb next to the lifeless body of his mate, who had likely been hit by a car. It broke my heart to witness this lovely bird refusing to let go, sitting faithfully by her side. Animals feel, animals love, and animals grieve, and we honor them. We are gathered for worship.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone gathered here with us this morning, or if you are joining online or watching at a later time. It's wonderful to see all of our special guests this morning, whether they're furry or maybe scaly or feathery or crawly. Welcome to all of you. So as we're joining together this morning, we're going to begin our time by lighting our chalice to remind us of the spark of love and possibility that resides within our hearts. I would like to invite up anyone, no matter what age, who has brought a stuffed animal or a stuffed friend who would like to help us light this chalice, to go ahead and come up to the chancel and help us light the chalice. And as our friends are coming up, let us join together in these familiar words. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you. Another way we begin our time together each week is by reciting our covenant. Our covenant explains how we are in relationship with one another. It's not a creed or a statement of belief. Rather, it's a commitment that helps to strengthen the bonds of this community. So, again, I would ask you to join with me in reciting these words with intention. Let us say together, the spirit of this church is love. and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here with each of you. Once a month in our community, we take a little bit of time to learn more about the important justice work that's happening amidst us here in our community and our local region, led by lay-led UUAA groups right here. Today, we're going to hear a little bit about our climate justice work, and I invite Ed Lynn and Sandy Simon to join us in the pulpit.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Simon, and you probably know Ed Lynn. We're representing the Climate Action Climate Justice Group, the leadership team that also includes Janine Laprade, Ruth Moore, and Kate Hutchins. Ed and I are here this morning to celebrate with you. We've recently taken some big steps toward our Vision 2050 climate goals and on our recertification as a green sanctuary congregation. And when I say we have done this, I'm meaning all of you. Anyone who participated in Vision 2050, last fall's climate gathering table, the climate survey we took, any of the brainstorming meetings we had about climate goals last year, or if you made a contribution to the capital campaign, you all helped do this. This June, our climate leadership team and some of our helpers got together all of the information we collected over that year and distilled it down into a document that's full of wonderful possibilities. It's called the Opportunity Assessment, and it details the opportunities and the challenges that our congregation sees ahead for helping to create the kind of world that we want our children and grandchildren and companion animals to live in. Let's see. So it has a lot of projects in it, large and small. Some of them may never get fulfilled, and some of them are already underway. Like, I hope that you've all been reading the Green Corner column in your weekly news that gives you eco tips every week. Some projects are waiting, some for more information, some for a good companion community group that we can work with, and some just for volunteers to step up and say, I can lead this, so that may be you. If you're curious about what we distilled down into that document, if you have your smartphone with you, you can go to uuaa.org/climate update, all one word, climate update, or you may have picked up one of the hard copy of the one pager. The full document is larger. Please go and read it sometime, but the one pager will give you a good taste of what we're talking about.
Good morning. As Sandy related, the opportunity assessment covers both where we are at now and possible actions we can take. And some of these activities are already underway. To help fund these opportunities, our capital campaign has so far gathered 109 pledges totaling $900,000. And we have already received well over 1/3 of that. We have it in the bank. We remain open for pledges and donations, but with the support we have received so far, we have been able to get to work. We have scheduled the installation next summer of solar panels that will generate 100,000 kilowatts of electricity annually, almost all of our requirements. We are close to signing a contract for a series of measures to make our building envelope more energy efficient, plugging holes, more insulation, just basic stuff like that. We have also scheduled a meeting to gather your input for a long-range site plan. How might we make our site more carbon neutral or more appropriate for our future we face? The meeting is scheduled October 2nd, a Sunday afternoon. Look for notices, and please join us. And finally, I recently saw an interesting, to me at least, perspective on climate change. Well, there it is. The perspective compared all the global fossil fuel CO2 emissions since 1751, that's the dawn of the industrial age, 270 years ago, with your age. For example, if you are 70 years old, about 85% of that global total over 270 years has been generated during your lifetime. Yeah. If you are only 30, over half of that total has been generated during your lifetime. If you are 85, it is 90% of that total. This is our legacy. Whatever else we may have done with our lives, this is part of our legacy. And it's just not the CO2 emissions, but the social justice ramifications of these emissions and all the environmental degradation we are witnessing. And this will be more difficult work to do. Not only, for example, supporting a marginalized community being adversely affected by a toxic chemical plant, but then examining our own lives to eliminate the goods and services we buy or use that make that chemical plant necessary. A lot of work, but with Vision 2050, we are making an effort to address this legacy. Together, let's see how much of that vision we can make a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy and Ed, for sharing all the wonderful work you've been doing around climate justice and all the work we can do together going forward. One of the reasons that we engage in the spiritual practice of collecting an offering each Sunday is to honor the power of coming together. It doesn't matter how we give or how much we give. It just matters that together we can build something greater than we ever could have alone. As our ushers come forward with the baskets, I encourage you to give as generously as you can, knowing that your generosity helps us do the work the world desperately needs right now. You can donate by texting UUAA to 73256. You can go to uuaa.org/giving, or of course, you can place cash or checks in the baskets as they come by. However you give, thank you for your generosity and commitment. This morning's offering will now be gratefully given and received.
Alleluia.
know about you, but that absolutely made my week. I invite the ushers to come forward. And let us say together, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you.
Like Stella, I was not really allowed to have any pets when I was growing up, so stuffed animals was about as close as it got, and I had quite an extensive collection of stuffed animals. But it didn't change the longing in my heart for wanting to be close to animal life. So no sooner was I a young adult living on my own, still an undergrad, that I started collecting what became a lifelong passion to have a menagerie, my own personal zoo. Starting out with, I had a parrot. Later in life, I had a kind of marsupial called a sugar glider. I even had my own experiments with fish. Stella, nobody warned me that fish have very short lifespans. This was a 20-year-old version of me traumatized at how often I had to grieve and bury fish, and I wept over them. I wept over my little fish. So it became, over time, I developed a simple criteria. Pets should be cuddly. They take a lot of effort, so you should be able to cuddle with them. And I have, for about 30 years now, had cats in my life. And so my philosophy around pets, I have just applied to cats. Hereto, nobody explained anything to me about cats, just I decided they're cuddly, they're cute. So if you see a cute cat, you go and you just pick it up and cuddle it. I've got the scars and the scratches and the bites to prove it. No exaggeration, including, perhaps a story for another day, an ER visit to the hospital due to one of my pet cats and me being a little overzealous pet owner. So this week, for those who are here as a family together, I think Netflix has had out for a week or two this show called The Mind of a Cat. It's a family-oriented show about cats. Highly recommend it, highly recommend it. There was so much basic stuff in there that I didn't know, my daughter clearly knew. And at one point she turned to me and she's like, "Daddy, they made this just for you. You can learn how to be a good cat owner now." There are better ways to relate to animals, and it's not all the same. By the way, if you do see this show, and I do recommend it, they indicate that, what we know about cats, it's about house cats. I'm talking just about house cats. 15 years behind what we know about dogs, at least. And by the way, for those of the children, if you love animals, I discovered there are professorships at universities where the professor's job is to teach about and learn about house cats. There's several professorships where that is the sole focus. Who would have guessed? Anyway, we humans love relating to our animal friends, and the cuter they are and the cuddlier they are, the higher they go on kind of an internal hierarchy. I think this Sunday I can even say pecking order. I couldn't resist. But think about that. We have a little internal hierarchy of which kinds of animals might matter more, right? Where we have in that internal hierarchy where a worm might fall or a mosquito is somewhere different than a house cat or a house dog, a pet. We have internal hierarchies. And yet, these animals that find their way into our lives, even a parrot, birds are highly emotional creatures, by the way. I had no idea until I had a parrot. They give us so much, right? We offer them food, shelter, warmth, maybe an easier life than living in the wild. What do they give us? They let us pet them, so they snuggle with us. Some of them snuggle with us. Cuddles and companionship. They're companions, right? They become members of our family. So there's an interdependence in that. So I want to talk a little bit about interdependence. It's an important UU concept. It's actually a Unitarian Universalist concept, one of our central concepts, that we have an interdependent relationship with nature, and that includes animal life. So interdependence, is another word for that is mutuality, but both of those words are still very big for our youngest folk who are with us today, our youngest members of our community. So mutuality is that, we support them and they support us. And we humans support one another in these ways. There's a mutuality, human to human, and there's mutuality in our relationships with animals and our pets. That kind of mutual support, mutual caring, being a part of one another's lives, it doesn't necessarily mean equal. So interdependence is not the same thing as equality, right? I'm not saying that my life is the same as the life of a cat. They're different. But it also doesn't mean dominion or domination over. Now here's where, so those of you who are regular attendees of our annual pet blessing ceremony, I'm going to do a minute or two riff on one of my favorite spiritual pet peeves. And this year I'll add, I did that, I didn't even know I was doing that. And I'll add a new little twist this year by adding the concept of malpractice to the thing that I'm just going to talk about. Now, we know it's a big word. We know what it means in the medical field, right? Like a doctor who's working with us, they're not supposed to intentionally cause harm, or, at times if it's just something goes really wrong, something is negligent, we say malpractice. There was extreme harm done, either on purpose or through extreme negligence of some kind. Well, there's not a lot of things I would call spiritual malpractice, but where there's harm caused, significant harm caused. There are some things. And the teaching of domination or dominion over, that in the Abrahamic traditions it's possible to trace to the first chapter of Genesis, has caused so much fundamental harm across human civilizations and societies, across cultures. It is the dominant frame on planet Earth by which humans relate to the natural environment and to the animal life that we are surrounded by. The concept of dominion, the concept of domination over. That is not the same thing that we Unitarian Universalists hold as core when we talk about mutuality or interdependence or shared lives together in those kinds of ways. Our human efforts to honor our interdependence with animals are not born out of domination, but out of this recognition that we have a shared life together on a shared planet, this sense of mutuality. And there's some beautiful things we human beings do from that place of interdependence and that place of mutuality. A lot of our conservation efforts, not conservation for our little ones, it's how do we try and protect animal life? That's what the word conservation means. How do we try and protect animal life? And we have done some really, really amazing things. There are animal species that have almost been completely extinct on our planet, but due to our human commitment to try and preserve those animal species, to try and ensure that we can still live on planet Earth with them, there are species that have made enormous comebacks. And I've been reading and learning about this. This is new to me, to some of this. Mongolian snow leopards, almost extinct, have been making a comeback. Humpback whales, African mountain gorillas, the Nepalese tiger, the Indian one-horned rhino, and a little bit closer to home here in our country, the bald eagle, which was almost driven to the point of extinction. At one point, there were only 400 breeding pairs of bald eagles in the whole lower 48 states of the US. We now have over 10,000 breeding pairs in the wild. of bald eagles. That is a tremendous accomplishment for us when we set our minds to it. We human beings can make a positive difference with our efforts. And we see this also during this pandemic time, when we were all across the globe stuck in lockdowns and staying at home. What was one of the most prominent things that we saw within a couple of months? Environmental rebounds. Certain things started to improve in the natural environment around us. When we curtailed or limited the amount of human activity which was causing pollution, the air, the quality of air, the quality of water started to make significant rebounds. So we can see that our human effort, the effort that we put in to care for the environment, to care for animal life, it does make a positive impact. And it is something that we can try to honor with our lives and our commitments as Unitarian Universalists. So how do we live into our UU goal, our UU commitment to support conservation, to support animal life, and to support this value of interdependence, that we rely on one another? I have a couple of suggestions, and they're really simple ones, easy ones that even our little ones amongst us can live into. Whenever and wherever possible, let's try not to cause harm. Let's try not to cause harm to one another as human beings, to the environmental planet, the world planet that we're a part of, and to the animal life that we're surrounded by. Let's try our best not to do that, to cause harm and pain, suffering in the world. Let's try also to honor that interdependence, that mutuality, that needing of one another in order to thrive and do well. Now, what does that look like? I can say honor interdependence, but that could mean just about anything, right? Gratitude. Yeah, thank you for that bark of affirmation. Gratitude. So in a lot of indigenous traditions around the world, when we take an animal life for any purpose, whether it is for clothing or food or both, there's always some words of appreciation and gratitude that are offered in recognition that we have taken a living life, and that living life deserves to be honored for what it's providing for us. So gratitude is an important spiritual concept that reminds us of our interdependence, the mutuality that we're living with. Respect, respecting nature and our animal life. So mutuality does not exist in the absence of respect. So respect means treating things with dignity and with care. And then also we can bring with that sense of caring, maybe even a little bit of tenderness and love for the preciousness of the planet that we live on, the beauty that we are surrounded by, the miracle of life, and all the blessings that it provides for us. These are just a couple of suggestions and possibilities, and I bet, in fact, I invite you to think about how you can add to this list yourself or in your family. This is a great conversation to even have potentially with the little ones in your life, with the kids. What does it mean to live into our UU commitment, to honor nature and animal life, to honor that interdependence? What are the concrete and practical ways we can do that? I encourage you to build that list out even further and to talk about it in your families and in your communities. As we continue with our time together today, we're going to take a little bit of time to enter into two brief ritual times. One to honor the animals that have been in our lives and are no longer with us, that have perhaps died. And the other to honor and bless animals that might be here in our sanctuary right now, maybe at home with you at this very moment. Other animals in our living world and planet around us that we want to honor and hold in our hearts. And I invite us to begin to shift a little bit in our spirits and our grounding and our centering as we move into a time of honoring those animals that are now deceased. One of the important things we can do for one another in spiritual community, a community such as ours, is to take even just a few moments like we are today to honor the fact that the animals we let deeply into our lives become family members. It is often in our broader society a completely unrecognized and unhonored source of mourning and grief when a beloved family member, that is a pet, that is an animal, dies. And it doesn't matter whether that animal is a dog that has been with us for 12 or 15 or 17 or more years, or a cat that maybe has been with us 20 years, or a little fish, as I've grieved and mourned and cried, that has only been with me for a week at certain points in time. We can still develop that sense of deep appreciation and attachment, and our broader society often does not honor that grief that comes from the loss of a family member that is non-human. So we're going to take some collective time today to do that, some space to recognize that that is a source of, that our pets are both a source of love, and when they leave us and are no longer in our lives, that that is a loss for us. Some of you have today brought in person with you a memento or a picture of a pet that is no longer with you, and in just a moment, as we hear some background music, we'll invite you to come forward and place the memento or the picture on the altar table in front. If you have not brought a memento or picture but are holding a now deceased animal companion or friend in your heart, we invite you to join us at the candle table, and you can light a candle honoring and holding in your heart the memory and the love and caring that was shared. You can also take this time as one of a quiet reflection, of quietude, to simply bring yourself in greater alignment with that spirit of relationship with the animal world. And if you're joining us online, we invite you to type into the chat the name of animals or animal companions that you may be holding in your heart during this time of remembrance. Let us now enter into this time of honoring those animal beloveds that are no longer with us. We now shift into honoring and blessing those animals that are actively a part of our lives now. Whether you've brought an actual animal companion into our sanctuary this morning, or a stuffed animal that represents your commitment to animal life, your love and caring for that, a picture of a pet that couldn't be with you in person today, or the memory of an animal that you've seen out in the wider world, or even if none of those quite fit, but you want to be here to witness and honor the fact that others are holding such animal friends and companions deeply in their hearts and in their lives. We invite you to come together in that spirit of honoring and blessing now. If you'd like an animal that's with us in person to be blessed in just a minute, I and others from the chancel will come down and we'll make our way around the sanctuary to visit with you and bless your animal, or even your stuffed animal if you'd like that blessed. Just raise your hand and get our attention as we're coming around. Online, if you would like to honor one of the animals in your lives, we invite you to share the name or what description, whatever you'd like, of that beautiful animal that you're holding in your heart and as part of your family. And we'll offer you a blessing back. And then we invite the other participants that are online today to also add their own words of appreciation and blessing in support of one another in the spirit of community. Whether you're joining us in person in the sanctuary today or online or viewing the service later, you'll also have the chance to see photos of animals that are companions to the members and friends of our congregation that were sent in advance. Let us now move into this time of honoring and blessing, of holding together as a community our animal companion friends.
we've got the whole world in our hands. 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 We've got the dogs and the cats. We've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the dogs and the cats in our hands. We've got the whole world in our lions and bears. We've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the lions and the bears in our hands. We've got the whole world in our ferrets and weevils. We got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the ferrets and the weasels in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the elephants. We've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the elephants in our hands. We've got the whole world. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
As we go forth today into a new week, go knowing that you are held in love and care, both the love and care of this community, of your families, extended families, network of friends, by the love that is inherent to this planet, the nature and fauna that love us, support us as best as they can, the animal life that we share mutuality and interdependence with, so many sources of support and caring, of which we are an integral part as well. Go forth and honor that deeply and well until we are together again. Go in peace.